Hey everyone, and welcome to Ink Spotlights with Comix Wellspring. This is the series where we shine the spotlight on immensely talented creators who print with us. And today we're joined by Geoff Mosse to talk about some of his books, his projects, and a little bit more. Jeff, so awesome to talk to you today. Tell us all about what you do.
Oh, hey, Brandon. Thanks for having me on. Right now, I have been focused on my newest graphic novel, In the Valley of Death. It is the story of the first day at the Battle of the Somme, which was called the bloodiest day in the history of British warfare when they had 60,000 casualties in that one day.
Yeah, dude, that's epic. That's awesome. What got you so interested to take on such a topic and a time in history?
Well, I'd finished working on a couple different books, and I decided, what's the one thing that I want to read? What would I really like? And I decided to do a war story. My first thought was to go to World War II, maybe focus on something my grandfather did. Tom Hanks kind of played him in Saving Private Ryan for about the first half hour or so.
Oh,
But then I
wow.
realized, every World War II story has been told, probably multiple times. I didn't know what to do with it. So then I decided to go about 20 years back and I started looking at World War One just because it's more cinematic and there's a lot of stories there that people just don't know or that haven't been told to their fullest.
Yeah, I feel like, it's one of those things where a lot of history buffs kind of like latch on to a certain time period. And World War II has gotten so much attention. And you're right, you see so many stories, comics, Garth Ennis has huge, World War II stories, all sorts of stuff. But World War One in specific always interested me because of how things played out for the technology that was around at the time. What was some of your research like kind of diving into this to really get some accuracy going too?
Oh, the research was intense. It took months. Like when I first started out, I was thinking maybe I'll do the Battle of Jutland, which was like the one naval battle. But then I realized I'm going to be sitting there assembling model ships for months on end. I'd probably still be working on it if I'd gone that way. So I threw that out. I thought about the third battle of the Ypres, specifically Passchendaele, but then I realized just in doing the artistry of it, the mud was going to be a problem.
Oh,
And
yeah.
then I eventually circled around to the Battle of the Somme, and there's a lot going on there. And I started really focusing in on the first day. And the research, like I said, it was intense, but there's a lot of recollections and recordings and letters from the veterans that were there. There's even a little bit of film.
And so what was about it like the first day you mentioned? What like hit you that click like, "Oh, this is what I can convert. This has all the materials I need that would translate well into a comic."
There's just such a great human element with soldiers on both sides of the Western Front, both in the German trenches and in the British trenches. Nobody wants to be there, but since they're there, nobody's going to let the other side push them around.
Oh, dude, that's awesome. That's so intriguing too, because it's a perspective I feel like we forget about so much. Some as time goes on, we're almost 100 years just about away from when that war was happening and starting, and like all these
Right.
events were going
This
on.
year marks will be the 109th anniversary of the Battle of the Somme. So we're a little
Yeah, a
past
little
that.
over that.
I
Yeah,
mean, there's just no more World War One veterans around anymore. They have all grown old and died. So this is the only way to really keep telling their story.
and that's such an important aspect too. Just pointing out that we've passed so much time at this point that we got to keep these memories and these people alive in some way. Were you able to use like accurate names, or did you kind of create your own names for some of the soldiers? What was your approach with finding them in that sense?
Well, when I was doing the research and I was reading through all the recollections and the memories that they had, I figured that the best way to honor it would be to just use the real people. And in a lot of cases, I used their real dialogue. So some of the letters that are in the book that they're writing as they're getting ready to go in out of the trenches and into no man's land, that's their actual words. And I
Oh,
thought that's perfect. There's no way that you can just top that.
no, yeah, that's a great way to, I mean, just keep them in their memory and their honor alive in such a beautiful way too. That's so amazingly accurate. And I love comics that really take that amount of focus and research, and it's entertaining in its own way, of course, but it's also like informative. You're educating us as we're like going about this, and you might cause an entire like rift of people to go into like more research mode and diving into some of this, which is always like a little bit exciting and rewarding in itself too.
Well,
But
hopefully, because I mean, the modern world starts on June 28th, 1914, when Gavrilo Princip assassinates the Archduke Franz Ferdinand. I mean, everything that happened in the world stems from that one incident. What was supposed to be just a tiny little regional war becomes World War One, and it just dictates what the shape of the 20th and the 21st centuries are going to be. Because if you look back at some like of our modern horrors, like September 11th or October 7th, there is a direct line back to the fallout from the First World War. So someday, deep in the future, when our children's, so on and so forth, look back, they will see like what a large shadow the First World War cast upon our entire world.
honestly, there's so much, and that's something that people need to keep in mind all the time is that when you look back at history, you will learn lessons. And I feel like there's so many things trying to erase history, alter things when it's like you need to like be able to go there and find the truth and the facts. And you'll be, I mean, it's just like we do it with ourselves. You go back and look at your past and say, how can I improve? You don't look at your past and be like, how can I keep on repeating that same mistake over and over? And it seems like what we do as like the world as a whole, we keep on making these same mistakes instead of learning from them sometimes. And bringing a book out like this is kind of a reminder and kind of like shaking people like, hey, pay attention to what's happened. This is vital, and this can actually answer a lot to what's happening right now in front of us. That seems almost natural day to day living at this point in this type of world we're now encompassed in.
Right. Well, I mean, on the day of the armistice, November 11th, 1918, the French general Ferdinand Foch, who was in command of all of the Allied armies, by the time that the Treaty of Versailles comes around, he dictates that, like, we haven't really ended the war. We've just created a 20-year armistice, which is absolutely true.
Honestly, yeah. No, I mean, that's a lesson for, just me hearing that right now. That's amazing though. So like, going back a little bit, into your history as well, like why comics? What got you into wanting to go into this craft and, dive yourself into something like this?
One of my earliest memories is I was 4 years old and I was in my mother's arms. My parents took me to a car show. And then right in front of me is the 1966 Batmobile. And then up on stage is Adam West in the Batman costume signing pictures. So that had to be it. And clearly he was not happy to be there. He didn't want to be there at all. He's an actor. He wanted to be in movies, on television, on stage, doing his craft, not being in this suit that has typecast him, signing autographs for everybody. But I do remember that when my mother took me up on stage in her arms, he looked up at me in the eyes and just said, "Oh, hello," and handed me an autographed picture. So I think it all stems from that.
That's beautiful. What a moment too, and what a memory in general. That's just, I mean, talk about deep and rich history. Like Adam is, pivotal into what comics have become and what television and animated series and everything. He was the central point of all that. Just like World War I kind of kicked off a lot of things. Adam West and Batman 66 really did kick off a lot of things in the
Oh, I
comic
think
book
Adam West
history.
in '66 is responsible for a lot of creators getting in.
Yes, 100%. I mean, I grew up on that stuff too. My dad, I kind of watched that and Batman the animated series like hand in hand growing up. And so you get this beautiful, incarnation of Batman in both spectrums. You just can't, do more than just love and appreciate it. And I think that's why I love series like Brave and the Bold and whatnot too, because of Adam West and that, brightness he brought to the Bat figure.
Yeah, well, I think the other thing that really just kind of refined the touch with everything that I did is the artist of one of my first Spider-Man comics was a guy named Tom Lyle. And when I was in school, he was my first teacher. So I immediately knew his name and I was able to talk to him. And I got to say, like, anything that I was doing wrong, he managed to fix an entire semester and just really refine my abilities and what I can do.
Oh, how epic. I mean, that's amazing in itself. And anybody, any creator, especially that you get to encounter that can help improve upon yourself, I mean, that's just gonna stick and you're just gonna work harder at that point, you know? And I always love that type of influence and impact that creators can have on us. So what else do you have planned on for 2025? I mean, this book sounds really big and bombastic. Are you working on any new projects in the background? Are you planning on doing any conventions this year?
Oh yeah. Well, I'm going to break this down a little bit. Like, I do have a new book that I am working on right now. I think I'm 20 something, maybe 30 pages in.
Oh,
And just today started getting some interesting offers to do some contract work because of it. So,
ooh,
I mean, our book that I made with my creative partner, Patrick Hernandez, and it got picked up by Mercosia. We've been having a lot of success, and I got a shout out to some of the comic shops that have been picking us up, like Zenith Comics in Malden, Mass, Mind Virus in Fargo, North Dakota, Gutter Pop Comics in Buffalo, New York, Ace Comics in Colchester, England, Page 45 in Nottingham. Like, these guys have been giving us a lot of support, and I just got to pay that back a little bit.
oh, that's
And I'm doing a
epic.
lot of conventions on both sides of the Atlantic and a lot of signings. I'll be doing something at Zenith Comics soon. And February 22nd, I'll be at Eastside Mags in Montclair, New Jersey. And March 15th, I'll be at the IC3 convention in New Haven, Connecticut. I love doing that show.
I'm so excited to see you there. That's going to be such a big event for all of us. Not every creator there is so remarkable, and I'm so excited that even like my publishing and my comics is we're going to be tabling and running around, and so we'll have Apollo there. So all of us in the same room with that many indie comics and that much excitement. I'm so glad they're aiming to push it for 2 days because one day is just so much and it's hard to contain. Because it's
I
just
know I
turning
did
into
it
a week.
last year. It was amazing. Could not wait to come back. Like, I'm so excited to see how it's grown and like just catch up with everybody that I met there. And of course, like the great thing about it is it's really just dedicated towards comics and specifically indie
Yes.
comics. So it's people that are there for us.
Yes, exactly. And we need more of that because, conventions, they shove us more and more in the corner every year, it feels like, and they raise our table prices a little more every year. And, IC3 is just kind of our savior in conventions right now. And it's really, talk about something about making an impact. IC3 is right there, really making a trailblazing, just monumental, convention that I think is going to go way further than any of us can imagine right now. And I'm so hyped that we'll get to
Oh, I
meet and hang out for a
really,
bit.
really do hope so. Because I mean, I also got to give a shout out to my friends at the Shuli Network on YouTube. Shuli Egar used to be a staffer on Howard Stern. He has his own YouTube channel right now. He even gave me a quote for the back cover of the book. Like, he was so generous with his time. So big shout out to everybody over at the Shuli Network.
Amazing, dude. So cool. Can people buy this book anywhere else besides seeing you at a con right now?
Oh, absolutely. We're all over. Like Amazon, Barnes and Noble, Books a Million, Powell's, Foyles, Waterstone, IndieBound. But I think the most important thing is go to your local comic shop and ask for it. All those
Amazing.
big corporations, they're going to be fine. They can deal with a sale or they can leave it. Doesn't matter. But your dollar goes a lot further in these locally owned businesses, and it helps your community, and it makes them thrive. So I would encourage
100%.
everybody, go to your local comic store, ask for it by name in the Valley of Death, and get your retailer to order it for you.
Amazing, dude. Yeah, definitely. I'll tell my shop, Four Color Fantasies here in Winchester. They love supporting indie creators. They carry all of our Apollo books, and they're always wanting to take in more books. So I'll definitely send them like a link or something to check out your work and to get a few copies in their shop. I'm sure they would love to have something in their store of this. Looks like a beautiful book and such a great purpose. I'm hyped to read it. I can't wait to see you at IC3 and get this. Like, I'm really excited. So Jeff,
Yeah, I
thank
mean, it
you.
was a 2 year odyssey to create this book from research to just being done. Because I told Patrick when we were finally done, I think we got a good book. I don't know if we're going to win any awards. Not that that really matters, but I think we've got a really good looking, interesting book.
I think so too, not gonna lie. And I mean, I come across a lot of indie books, but this I grew up a history book because my grandfather and he was a history teacher, and World War I and World War II was everything he focused on. And my family moved right before, the day after we left Germany, Germany invaded Poland. So it was right on that cusp. Like they did that 2 days later, and it was just crazy. So I've always had a fascination with this earlier history of these wars. So I'm hyped. I'm so excited. Thank you for stepping in the spotlight today and spending some time to chat. We can't wait to see you at IC3, my dude.
Oh, Brandon, it was my pleasure. Thank you for having me on. This was just so much fun, and I love your interviews. And it was just my honor to be able to talk to you finally.
Oh, thank you, man. I can't wait to get you in a longer form conversation so we could really dive deep into some of these history aspects. It'll be a really great time.
I love it. Let's talk more at IC3.
Awesome. We'll see you there. Thanks, man.